Angel Studios kicks off 2025 with Brave the Dark. Jared Harris stars as Stan Dean, a high school teacher who takes in this mystery. And Nick Hamilton, Nate, is a homeless teenager living in his car. I guess don't really watch the trailer in a lot of ways because it kind of spoils some of the stuff as well. But the story is about Stan's influence on this young man trying to turn his life around, coming to grips with reality and the trauma of his past, being an orphan and being passed around through the foster system. And there's a couple of great lines that the script does really well. One is, what is your angle? Everyone has listening. No one's helping anyone without an angle. Like even he's sort of bitter and jaded, even like by the foster system. Like no one was caring about me. They just wanted the check. No one, thought to try to help heal my wounds of the past. And then late in the movie, and I won't, this is not really a spoil, I'll dance around it carefully. It's there's a chance where Stan is looking at him, and there's another character, but Stan's the key character here, and says, I'm willing to believe you. And it's the fact that what had happened in the trauma that he had faced when he was young, no one believed him. And it's kind of a weird kind of a plot hole in the movie. I'm not quite sure exactly how to deal with that one yet. We'll kind of get to that at the end. So it's kind of past the spoilery part. But overall, it's a dramatic piece. It's another biography, true story. I don't want to get too far into the weeds about all of that. It's supposed to be set into the 80s, and you kind of get a good feel for that at times, but at the same time, you don't really. But the idea that you can tell another person's story, you can get into the deep weeds of how a person can climb out of that darkness, I think is the point of this film. All right, here you see Nicholas Hamilton is Nate. Yes, just a broken teenager, dark. You see him running. You see him living in his car. You see him just being kind of an emotional basket case. He's I want to say abusive, but he's emotionally abusive with his girlfriend. He's not physically abusive. He's trying to be a nice guy, but he doesn't know how to be a nice guy. He's running with some kids and basically just, falls on the sword for them, protects them. And it's kind of funny too, because only one of their kids brought up there was a third kid, but he is going to go to jail, going to go to prison, which I thought was kind of very abrupt, like kind of went very extreme on this. But you know what? It's fine. It works well to kind of paint the story. I wouldn't be shocked, and I didn't really research this, but I wouldn't be shocked if the fact that Nate has a serial criminal history. He's done multiple robberies, done multiple assaults. He's done things that it's not like one incident and suddenly his life is ruined. As I said, Jared Harris plays this teacher who just knows all the kids by name, knows everyone around this town, knows everyone, calls in favors by just being a nice, genuine human being. Like, I can't imagine not trying to glorify someone like Stan Dean. Like Stan Dean's legacy finally coming to light is a truly magnificent element of this film. And I wish that there was more information on Stan Dean and we can talk about a dude that needs a stamp. Talk about a dude that needs like recognition. They talk at the end of the movie, right? This and this is named after Stan, but that's not enough. Dude has touched lives throughout. In the movie, you get to see like the warden of the jail and oh, this person over here, this person over there. And I will admit, when Stan got pushed, there's a part where he breaks. He's like, if it wasn't for me and my friends, you'd be in a worse place. So he knows that he's trying to do good. But Stan is a flawed human being with problems and dealing with his own grief and past that haunts him, and he's trying to climb out of by helping other people and doing good in the world. The flashbacks go into Nate's childhood a little bit, and you see a little bit of his mom and abused dad. But all in all, Nate doesn't know normal. Nate's never been given an opportunity for normal. Nothing ever works out for him. He has no idea what to do. Constantly, Stan, I think it's 3 times or so, says, look, going back to school and trying to right the ship is your only path forward. Why can't you see that? Well, the kid has no normal. He has no idea what normal is. So it is great to see all that come to light. So all in all, I will say if you like dramatic biopics and want to support Angel Studios, this is one they've picked up to distribute. It's going to come back into theaters here in a couple of weeks. And I have to be honest, this film's been around overseas. It's done some stuff. There's reviews and things that are kind of out there. But I think all in all, it's getting a pretty fair shake compared to some of the other Angel Studios projects. This is a Very strong Midland film. It's kind of like that 3 out of 5 for me, maybe 3.5, if this is your kind of thing. But I think the 6 out of 10 is to 7 out of 10. It's kind of the fair range for kind of where this will land, depending on what you like. Jared Harris carries most of the movie, the scenes that he's in. Everything else is fine. It's slow and methodical, like most biopic dramas are. And then it has a little bit of the unstirring elements at the end of the movie when things kind of turn out. So I'm going to get more into those spoilers. And I got to be honest, a little bit more of my problems with the film. And I might even kind of have to rescore the film a little bit based on some of that as I kind of talk those through with you. All right, it's around the middle of the movie, and we were sort of like pausing and kind of asking ourselves if this feels like the time that we're in. It feels like the 80s, because I feel like this is a creative team that wants to think that they're in the 80s, but it's not at all. Some of the costumes and the way he holds himself and his hair, there are all sorts of little things. And sadly, there's pictures after the movie that they show like who they are in real life, and you're like, that's the 80s. The windbreakers, the bright colors, the mullet. It was just like, okay. So they got away from all of that. And I think they did that to try to relate to kids these days, but you just lose a little bit of the flavor that this movie should have had. All right, sometimes real life doesn't adapt well to movies, in my opinion, right? The principal and Nate's grandparents are just awful human beings, and you don't understand any motivations. You just don't get it. So the principal is like, kids just bad, kids just bad. They're allowing all these teachers just badmouth this kid and I get it. It's probably a product of its time in the 80s, but there's no setup and context because dude's just done like one crime. He's not really a bad kid. So you don't get context to contrast what Stan sees. So it doesn't work well. The grandparents are completely insane. They like had little baby Nate lie about what actually happened because it would look bad on the family, I guess. I mean, people do this and people behave this way, and it was more common years ago than it would be now, but it creates a massive contradiction in the story. So at the end of the movie, Nate had gone to this library and he's gone through microfiche and he's found these stories. He prints out the stories of what actually happened to his mom, and those get read by another teacher in Stan, and they confront him about what actually happens. And this is the big twist: is it's not an accident. It's not some weird thing that the grandparents had come up with. No, it was a murder suicide based on what had happened with this abusive dad. And I'm like, well, wait, what would the microfiche have that would reveal to Stan something different? Like, I don't understand the microfiche printout, because if no one believed Nate, what's in this story? What is there to believe? Like, Nate, the dialogue is either the problem or the microfiche story is the problem. Something doesn't add up, right? Because he should have just said, just tell us what actually happened and we'll believe you. He doesn't say, tell us what actually happened. Say, I found your notes. I don't believe this is real. Something. There has to be a little bit more tit for tat there to make that kind of work and smooth out a little bit. And I'm probably being a little too generous with my score, because the more I've thought about all that and that contradiction, it really is kind of a big thing, because that is the motivation and driver for this character. And if we mess that up, it really starts to unravel and derail a lot of the film as a whole. I think it was wise for Angel Studios to pick this up and try to find something they can add to their resume. It has a lot of good moments and it has some good elements. I think Jared Harris is fantastic. He's there supporting his brother as the director in this film, and they got it out there, and Angel probably picked it up to distribute it. And I don't think that Damian Harris is a bad director or anything in that. I don't think it's anything great and there's any Oscar worthy or anything like that. Dropping into January seems really risky because most people don't go to the movies right now. Everybody's got to go back to school. It's after the first of the year. January, February used to be kind of like the dumping grounds for bad movies. I don't know if this will just kind of like, get everyone out there. Angel Studios is also kind of like on a bad run of financially bad run. I think Cabrini and Bonhoeffer are fine. Bonhoeffer significantly less than Cabrini. Cabrini is a beautiful film, but it's got a lot of foreign language in it. It's a slow, methodical film. This is also a slow, methodical biopic as well. So I don't know how to get enough traction for them to make money again, because that's really where we're at. We're at a point now where a couple of times their projects have higher budgets than box office. I don't know what that will work with their streaming and other ad revenue, but for the most part, this is not a good sign. They need to kind of turn this around. This is not that film. It doesn't have any of those sort of like gotcha things or anything that will create buzz or anything like that. I feel like it's just going to be a film that's going to show up, run a couple weeks, and kind of go away, land on their streaming service. And for that, I'm kind of saddened by it because I want them to do well. I want more independent companies to do well, push back against the machinery, and tell more good stories like this, because I am thankful that I got to learn more about Stan Deen. And I wish there was more information about Stan Deen, to be perfectly honest. So with that, thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pops.